I think it's a really interesting exploration of gender norms. And I think it's incredibly empowering for me to be able to imbue this character with my own life experiences. And then there's an added layer of kind of subtext to everything that Sagiri is saying. And maybe not everyone picks up on that, but I love being able to put a part of myself into this character.
I think both Marisa and Alejandro have done a great job, and it's great to meet both of you.
It's a pleasure.
Great to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a whole list of questions. I have plenty of time, it seems like, but it'll go quickly. So let's go ahead and start out. Alejandro, first one's for you, buddy. So you're voicing Gabimaru. He doesn't seem like the usual shonen protagonist who's usually like full of hope and inspires everyone that they meet in front of them. What do you believe sets him apart the most from like other action anime protagonists?
He's married right off the bat.
Yes.
But in all seriousness, it's so hard to say because like his driving force is his wife, right? And I feel like a lot of like shonen protags, like at some point they either start off not knowing what their end goal is, and by the end of episode 1, Gabimaru finds that end goal. It's like, I have to get back to my wife. Like that is my sole purpose right now. But like for most, it's like the adventure. It's this thing that it'll, and I feel like his goal is a lot more grounded for him to find, because like most shonen protags, from my experience, just watching anime, it's like either like, I want to be the strongest. I want to defeat this demon lord. I want to, go find this thing. And it's like, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. So I feel like that's one thing that sets him apart. And mind you, he has to go through a ridiculous amount of tribulations to get there. But I feel like his end goal is more grounded in compared to the others. That's just what I think.
So far, I think 3 dub episodes have come out on Crunchyroll. So that's as far as I am, unfortunately. But really, really enjoying it so far. But Marisa, next question's for you. In these first few episodes that I've been able to see, your character, I might be saying it incorrectly, Sagiri.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Cool. She proves to be an incredibly skilled and powerful, yet she's consistently dealing with these comments that are like disparaging her gender. In your field of work, would you say that gender discrimination has gotten less common? And what positive changes would you like to see happen sooner rather than later?
I definitely can relate a lot to some of what Sagiri has dealt with so far in these first 3 episodes. I think it's a really interesting exploration of gender norms. And I think it's incredibly empowering for me to be able to imbue this character with my own life experiences. And then there's an added layer of kind of subtext to everything that Sagiri is saying. And maybe not everyone picks up on that, but I love being able to put a part of myself into this character. I know that, I hate this saying, but we live in a man's world. And I think it's slowly but surely getting better, right? That we're seeing more women in power. We're seeing more women who are empowered. And Sagiri is kind of like a prime example of that. And so I think it's very relatable. I don't know that I feel like the industry is always taking a step forward. So I feel that there is progress being made. I'm working with female dub directors sometimes. But to have a story like this to work on and to promote and to have such a huge audience watching it is really, really cool. I don't know that this is a story that we would have seen shared, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So I think we're making good progress.
Yeah, I agree. And as somebody who's been watching anime since like the 90s, I just feel like there's so many like stories too that are, written to include characters of all walks of life rather than, oh, this is always the damsel in distress and this is always the big tough guy. And I think that things have definitely progressed, and I'm glad that you agree. But next one is kind of for both of you. Hell's Paradise seems to be another stunningly stylish anime from MAPPA, who's previously adapted amazing series like Chainsaw Man, Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen. How would your past selves react to hearing that you're voicing lead roles in these series from one of the world's most prolific anime studios?
It'd be screaming.
Still doesn't feel real. Yeah.
That's good. I honestly kind of feel the same way doing what I'm doing. I've always dreamed about writing about anime and video games and stuff. So it's nice when dreams come true. Hooray, anime. All right. Well, next one for Alejandro. If you were to place Gabimaru's character in any other anime, what would you like to see him in the most?
See him in the most, like currently where we are in the anime.
Oh, good question. Yeah.
Because if it's like happily ever after, like, you know, like years later, maybe, but man, that's so tough. I think it would, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like putting him in any other anime. You know, it'd be interesting. Actually, I would really like to see how Gabimaru would fare in Attack on Titan. Like speaking of other like Mappa properties, like because we've seen how he fights against like most people. How would he fare? You know, because knowing would he use one of the gears? Like now you got my mind pumped.
We'll ask the Death Battle guys on YouTube. We'll throw him against other things. I know he's a great ninja, so I could think he would be pretty brutal in Naruto. But then again, we could do a total left turn and throw him into a slice of life sort of.
Just put him in Horimiya. Just swap him. Swap him with Miyamura. Put Miyamura on Paradise, on Hell's Paradise. Put Gabimaru in the school.
Artists, you hear him here, artists. Let's make it happen. Let's get some fan art of that. So next question from Marissa. If you could choose one anime to be adapted into an English stage play, which would it be and which character would you like to play and why?
Oh my gosh. This is such a great question because so many anime are being adapted into stage plays.
Exactly.
Like Hell's Paradise, I believe, is one right now, which is incredibly cool. Yeah. Okay. Right now, I think Skippin' Loafer because I love it and it's adorable and it's just good vibes all around and I would watch the heck out of that as a stage play. And I love the lead girl in that show, so that would be one I'd want to play. She's super quirky and fun and just wholesome vibes.
Well, hopefully we get more anime stage plays here in the States. I unfortunately only get to see screenshots of big ones and I'm like, that looks so fun. All right. Well, next one is for both of you as well. Since you have started, actually, I have a formatting error. I have an extra question here. What are some series and or performances that inspired both of you to get into voice acting?
One that always comes to mind, and mind you, when I say this, there are like thousands that I've seen that I was like, oh yeah, that. But one of the most memorable ones is by Jesse James Greeley. They voiced in this show called Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple. And if they ever hear this, it's going to be weird because it was so cool, especially the ending, just hearing Jesse do all the different voices, like going from Kenichi to like imitating their masters and just like doing the impersonations. And I remember watching that when I was slowly getting into voiceover. I was like, wow, I want to do that. Like, that sounds so cool. And the range that Jesse had at the time to now, which then their range now is even better. Like, it's just gotten like higher and lower. So I'm just like, that one always comes to mind whenever, I get asked about like what like clicks.
I think for me, there are two that stand out. The first is, it was Soul Eater because Brittany Karbowski voices Black Star. And I came from theater and film where you typically are playing what you look like. And so to hear a female voice actor voicing a male in an anime, I was like, oh, I can be anything. It just, all I have to do is sound like it. And that was incredibly eye-opening for me, and kind of led me on this path. And then the other one would be Grey Delisle as Azula. There is some really good acting in there. And Yeah, it's kind of the best of both worlds. Also, I hearing, a woman with, I guess what might be considered a deeper voice playing a role like that. I was like, oh, there's a place for me. Like I can do this. So yeah, Brittany and Gray, thank you. You guys are great.
High fives all around. Um, Alejandro, next one for you, bud. If you could, or sorry, there we are. If you have helped create several beloved characters from voice acting across video games, anime, and many other series. What are some of the key differences when recording lines for a character in a scripted series versus like a video game?
I don't know. I feel like tone more than anything, because like with video games, they want you to, like 90% of the time they want you to be a little bit more grounded. In the sense of like, it's like, oh, this is like, every, whether it be a show, whether it be a cartoon, whether it be a video game, there's always different types of genres, right? So definitely the groundedness, and you just have to primarily use your imagination for most video games, like, because most of it isn't, they don't, you're not listening to the Japanese in your ear. You're not like seeing a visual. Like at most, maybe you'll get some concept art, or if you are working on like a JRPG or something, you're like matching like the movements, but that's maybe at most you get. But with anime, like, I feel like it can be a little bit more bombastic, and even with cartoons, and again, it all comes to the genre. It literally depends on the type, but it's always fun getting to go from the goofy to the dramatic, because for a while I was always just seen as the goofy guy, but now it's like, oh, he can do more things. But regardless of like what the tone is, I think it's fun getting to do the goofy and the dramatic and everything in between.
So far in the first 3 episodes, Gabimaru hasn't necessarily been the most goofy character I've ever seen. So
right. Wait till episode 4. He doesn't act goofy, but he does have the goofiest line, and it's possibly my favorite in the entirety of Hell's Paradise.
Excellent. Well, that's actually a great segue into this question. What moments are you? But this is for both of you. What moments are you most excited to see the reactions or to hear reactions from people with Hell's Paradise? And this can be a full spoilers question. So, of what you both have recorded in this first season, what are moments that you're most anxious to see people's reactions for?
Episode 5 in the J just dropped on Saturday. And I'm really excited to record that episode because we meet the one and only Genji. And he says some not so nice things. But I guess karma hits. And so seeing some of the comments already on Crunchyroll has been pretty entertaining.
Karma.
Yes, very much so.
And for me in episode 4, like I mentioned, Gabimaru is being... there's an attempt of being seduced by the female shinobi Yuzuriha, and he pins her down, like has her like literally holding her arm back. It's like, I'm married, I have a wife, and that's my favorite line in that whole scene is my favorite thing in the entire show.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for not completely spoiling big plot things with those little teases. So well done. All right. Next one I've got for Marisa. For the thousands of people out there who have experience in theater but want to get into voice acting, what skills have you found to be the most helpful in this new line of work?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is improv. Improvisation is incredibly beneficial, especially when you're first starting out. I started, in 2015, and I was brought in for Walla, and I didn't even know what Walla was. I just said yes. Learned very quickly that it's basically just group cues, and a lot of times they'll give you like lines that you can use as starters. But if you have a minute-long Walla cue, you have to talk. So coming up with ideas, spur of the moment, spontaneous ideas, that's where improv comes in handy. And it doesn't have to be funny. It just needs to relate to the scene somehow. But being able to carry on a conversation like that is super helpful. And I will also say that voice and speech or diction is incredibly important. When I first started out, I didn't necessarily realize that I didn't need to be super clear. Depending on the kind of show, like if you're in a slice of life, it's okay to be like, I'm going to do this instead of I'm going to. So that kind of changed things for me because on stage, diction is incredibly important. You need people to be able to hear and understand you. But my film acting experience comes in handy because I can be quieter if it's a more intimate moment because there's a microphone right in front of me. And that was something I wasn't used to. So I think improv and then voice and speech are probably the two things that I would mention.
This is, again, for both of you. If you yourselves are starting your voice careers now, voice acting careers now, what advice would you give yourselves?
Drop out of college faster. No, in all seriousness, that's tough to say. I would say don't want too many things. Maybe it's because I remember in my younger years, like if I saw something that I was obsessed over, and there's nothing wrong with like wanting a role because, like, I mean, I'm a fan of like everything that I've had the opportunity to work for. So, getting every opportunity, getting a chance to work on it, I was like, yes. I get excited because the fanboy in me is like, oh yeah, this is so cool. But I remember that I like hung up on it too much. Like it would drive me a little too crazy. And I would say it's a marathon, not a race, because everyone's career is different and the speed that everything goes at is so different. Some people might get really lucky and they'll hit it off the ground running, and some people it'll take longer, so patience is what I would tell myself. And even now I would tell myself, because it's all primarily a waiting game.
I would tell myself that you are enough all on your own. Don't worry about the number of Twitter followers you have. Just do good work, be a good person, and people will remember you.
Well, fantastic answers. I think you guys will inspire some people to pursue their dreams with those answers. So thank you so much for your time today. And well done, everybody. But I'm kind of getting the messages to get out of here. But it's been great talking to both of you, and I look forward to hearing more of your work.
Awesome.
Thank you,
likewise.
Jason.
Thank you.
Thanks.